Hi, everyone. Let's do some more Tai Chi. Now, I'll remind you that we've been working on spirals this week, so look for spirals. We're going to start with the first third just to warm up and get in the game. So become aware of how the moves spiral. And begin. So one of the things about spirals is that you have to know which leg you're using at any given moment. That's kind of critical because to have that spiral also have a vertical component, you need an axis, if you will, and it can only go through one leg at a time, or else it's not an axis. So let's work at the end of the form. We're going to start at single whip and go into four corners and take that to the end. And we'll do several iterations of that section of the form. And this first time through, I want you to be really aware of using only one leg at a time and noticing how the timing is that they switch. Not that you have to be, stopping and floating your empty foot, but you need to know which leg you're relying on. And whichever one you're relying on, you're busy letting go of the other one. And become aware of that as we go through this section of the form. So from single whip. So remember, even though you're in a 70-30, you're only using your front leg. Your rear leg is hanging away. You're relying on your front leg. And we're going to go to 4 corners and finish up from there. So begin. So as you're paying attention to which leg is holding you, you need to also be paying attention to letting go of the other one. And that's sometimes harder to bring your awareness to than the one that you're standing on. But if you're caught in a tight hip that's still holding on in the back, then it's going to get in the way of perceiving the spirals. So I want to do another one where instead of focusing on which leg is holding you, I want you to be conscious of letting go all the way from the hip joint of the leg that is the releasing leg, the opposite of the one that is holding you up. So let's do another one. I might say something to remind you, and I might just let you be in your own space and heads through this. So as you stand here, really feel like you're letting go of your rear leg. And go. Oh. Letting go of the empty leg. Freeing the empty leg. Letting go of that leg right away. Releasing the front leg and keeping it released as you turn. Okay, so now you've been paying attention to the leg that's holding you, paying attention to the leg that's releasing, and that lays the groundwork for being able to perceive the spirals that happen. So, as we've said, spirals can go in a couple different dimensions. There's a vertical axis, there's augering in, there's coming back out, there's spirals that take this sort of a direction. So this time through, I just want you to look for where spirals occur. We'll do it again. And begin. Remember to let the spiral go through your body, but not turn you into a jack-in-the-box popping up and down. Getting into single whip is filled with spirals. And so I want to do one more, and then I'll hand it over to Lee. And this time I want you to notice how much your dantian is turning and how that's part of the spiraling quality. Now, not every single move will have you turning the waist like this way and that, but do notice how anytime that you're spiraling, there's something that plays out in the waist as well. So you can think of it as just knowing where your belly button is pointing. You can be aware of it, whatever method works for you, but just keep coming back to awareness of the dantian and how much it's involved in making your spirals. And go. So Lee will lead us in doing some more work with this.
Let's do some more. So one of the things about these spirals is that, like Beth said, they've got a vertical component too. We're not just going around circularly on a flat plane. We're actually changing our relationship to the ground all the way through there. And so, sometimes people will ask us, what's root? And, what does it mean to be grounded? And the thing I don't like about either of the phrasing of those questions is that they describe a static thing, root. I mean, trees have roots, plants have roots. If you dig one up, you can point to the roots. It's a thing. Grounded is the idea of a static state. It's true that I am grounded or I'm not grounded, as opposed to the idea of an ongoing activity, of grounding. Sometimes I'm grounding better than other times. Sometimes I forget to be grounding. Sometimes I'm using my root, I'm using my relationship to the ground, and other times I'm not. And so rooting and grounding are like balance. They're not bucket list items. Oh, okay, I went to New Guinea, check. I got balanced, check. I learned how to cook this kind of a dish, check. I became grounded, check. So it's not that when you get grounded, you're done. It's not that somebody gives you a balance and then you just have it. These are things we always have to be doing. We're always working with our balance. We're always balancing. The cross-balance work is super important for that. We're always working with the ground. We're always rooting. And so, I like the phrasing of root is your changing relationship to ground. Not just that I have a relationship to ground, of course we do, we're on the planet, but that I'm always working it, it's always changing. And the two main ways that you change your relationship to ground are you're going towards the center of the earth, or you're letting the earth come back up into you. And so whenever we do any of these spirals, we need to have that happening too. And so doing this, Beth had us working on, which leg is supporting you and which leg is releasing, right? And we did a form, this end of the form, where we paid attention to the supporting leg, and then we did one where we paid attention to the releasing leg. So, you want to understand that. You also want to know at any instant, are you going towards the ground, or are you letting the ground come back up to you? And so just stand here for a second, and I don't want you to be doing a big up and down. Actually, do a big up and down. So stand on one leg and go down and come back up and go down and come back up and go down and come back up, and do it on the other side. Going down and coming back up and going down and coming back up. And so my question is, when you're doing that, where's your awareness primarily? Where's your doing, and what are you paying attention to? So do it a couple more times. Basically squatting, I don't care how far down you squat, but squatting and standing back up. One leg at a time, of course, because Tai Chi. The other leg, squatting and standing back up, and squatting and standing back up. So where were you paying attention to there? Where was the doing, and where was your mind brought? If you're like me, I was paying attention to my leg. And if we do this very much, it's going to feel like exercise, which is great. And if you're going to do this, I would really recommend doing this, just because it's so instructive. Doing that, you're going to feel it in your legs. And my awareness, at least, is primarily on the action of the leg, as the leg muscles are squatting down and standing me back up, not on my relationship to the ground. So even if squatting like that would build leg strength and could help you feel rooted, that isn't rooting. because rooting is actually how I'm feeling with the ground. So now I want you to do this again without going up and down. Stand up and feel that like a pebble dropping into a pond. Feel like you feel something dropping down through you and it goes to the ground and below your foot. Now just let yourself come back up so we'll pay attention to the up in a second. And feel that. Feel the pebble dropping through the pond down. And let the pebble come back up to the top. And feel the pebble dropping through the ground, dropping through your body down towards the ground. Do it on the other side. Without going up and down particularly, feel this dropping through the body down to the ground. And again, feel this dropping through the body down to the ground. And one more time. The pebble falls through the water all the way down into the pond bottom. So when you're doing that, you're relating to ground by going towards the center of the earth. The other thing that happens is the earth pushes back, right? Big ass planet. If you go up and down, the planet doesn't notice, but I push down on it and the planet pushes back. So you want to experience that. So try to feel this time, you let the pearl drop, it's clearly dropping. When it hits the bottom, feel like the planet is pushing back up on you. And do it again. Drop the pebble through the water, goes down into the bottom, bubbles or air or something comes back up. Drop the pebble through your body, actually follow it down through the body to the ground and feel something coming back up. This may take a while to get the feeling. It's not being a jack-in-the-box. It's not squatting and standing back up. Do it on the other side. Drop the pebble through the body. Follow it all the way down to the ground. Feel it come back from the ground up through. So the two sides are different. I drop the pebble, the weight drops down through the body, and then there's a fullness, the air bubbles, whatever comes back up. And again, try to get that. Dropping, coming back up. So at any moment in the form, we're doing one of those two things. We're either going towards the ground, or we're allowing the ground to fill us back up. We're never doing what we call skating or hydroplaning, where you're just going across the surface without anything changing relative to the earth, because that is not rooting. That is not changing your relationship to ground. That's just on ice sliding, right? Which, if you're ice skating, that's great. That's just exactly what you want. If you're driving, that's not what you want. You don't want to hit that patch of black ice or that wet roadway where you hydroplane across it and you no longer have connection to the ground. In Taiji, we want to have that connection to the ground. So we're always wanting that to happen. So let's do it. I'm not going to do single whip just in the four corners just in the interest of time with this, but let's do step forward, step back, the spin, the bend bow to shoot tiger, up through the end. And I want you, we'll do this twice, and I want you, with the first time you do it, to really be aware of, are you dropping the pebble down into the pond, or are you letting the pond fill you back up when you're doing this? And they're different. It's not, you don't fill back up until you actually hit the bottom, and you don't go down, fill up, go down, fill up, go down, fill up. You do a down, you let it come back up. You do a down, you let it come back up. So I won't talk the first time. The second time I will talk, and we'll see what we get to. So take it from single whip. We'll do squatting down, step forward, step back, and so forth. So single whip and go. Watching your changing relationship to ground. So before we do it again, let's look at a couple of the moves and talk through them. So one of them is bend bow, shoot the tiger. Right. And we have elsewhere talked through all the form choreography details of bend bow, shoot the tiger, so we're not going to spend our time on that today. And we hadn't done step forward, step back, so we made sure to do videos with those. But if you're confused about the form details of bend bow, shoot tiger, play along with us today and then go look at one of the other videos where we walked through all that. So I've just done the kick and I step. As I do this sweeping, I'm dropping down towards the ground so that when I get to this point here, I've really reached the ground. And then this whole punch here is letting the ground come back up into me. And then I sink down into the ground again as I send the lower punch out. And then I fill, letting the ground, the air bubbles from the bottom of the pond, come back up to me through to here. So do that with me a couple times. Beth will face canonical direction. I'll face the camera so that I can talk through it. We've just spun and do a little symbolic kick and step. And now as you sweep, feel yourself going towards the ground, hitting the ground right at the across the thighs place, and then let it fill back into where the top fist goes. And so do that again. We've just spun, kick, sweep, ground comes back, top fist. And again. Towards the ground, the earth pushes back, and then settle back down to the ground, which sends the bottom fist out. Right? And so you see what happens with this, right? You go up, you go down. You go up, you go down. You don't go up, and then up, and then up, and you don't go down, 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 down. Maggie has talked about your root, your relationship to ground, not being like quicksand. With quicksand, there's no bottom. You're just caught in this quicksand, and you're just melting down, down, down into the ground. You need to have that the pebble drops through the pond and hits the bottom of the pond, and then the pond comes back up and fills you. The air bubbles come back up and fills you. So there is a bottom. And they alternate, right? Just empty and full, up and down, all of those things, they alternate. So when I start out here, I sweep down and it fills back up and I settle down and that sends this hand out. And then from here, I'm going to fill up to there. So it's, but this isn't like this, right? I'm not doing the form like this. Even as that might be good exercise. So if you want the exercise of doing the squats, nobody wants to do this one. But if you want to do the exercise of doing the squats, actually do this and sit down and come back up. For doing the form like this, don't bobble. Don't be going up and down. Don't throw the meat around. Let it go through the body. So again, and we'll go all the way up to Rocky Mountain Special. So we've just spun, kick, step, feel yourself going towards the ground, feel the ground filling you back up. Feel yourself going towards the ground, feel the ground filling back up. Again, if you go too slow with this, it'll become held and you won't be doing that changing relationship to ground thing. So to find this early, you're going to need to do it a little more quickly than you might later on with the form. So kick, step, sweeping, hit bottom, strike, sink. Let it fill through you to the back fist. Again. Towards the ground fills you back up. Towards the ground fills you back up. So, every place in the form, we're doing one of the other of those things. Just as one leg is full and the other leg is empty, and just as one leg is filling while the other leg is releasing, just as the bellows of the form is an expansive or a drawing back into the center. So you're always either letting yourself sink towards the ground or allowing the ground to push back. Letting yourself sink towards the ground or allowing the ground to push back. And I really like practicing this just standing around. And let yourself feel that everything drops. It comes back up. You don't do the up, you only do the down. Everything drops. You let it come back up. And it's not this. So let's all throw through the form. We just looked at it in Bend Bow into Rocky Mountain Special. Let's look at it briefly in the spin and the kick, and then we'll do that whole segment again, and I'll invite you to notice everything that's happening there. So from step back to ride the tiger, you turn, and as you turn, this is a screwing into the ground. Now it's not this, right? You're not like going down. But as you turn, it's dropping through the body. You want to hit the bottom right so that then the rebound can take you around. Then you hit bottom again as you land, and the rebound from that is what actually makes the kick go. So let's try to do this, and I will acknowledge that this is difficult because you've got all this other stuff going on. But let's try to do this and really get that feeling. We'll do it a couple times. So from step back, ride the tiger. Turn, and don't even try to spin. Feel yourself hit bottom and get that to start the spin. And do that again. Turn, auguring into the ground. Rebound starts the spin. Once more. Turn, auguring into the ground. Rebound starts the spin. And so this is different from skating or hydroplaning. Skating or hydroplaning, sitting on a turntable on some DJ's setup, is you just come here, and now it just goes around. And so try that with me so you feel the difference. So turn, and now do everything on a platter, just around. I know the last time we talked about sitting on the piano stool, and the piano stool doesn't go up and down. The thing we were trying to do there is get you to let yourself go with it. The thing I want you to notice today is how, without that changing relationship to ground, this is both an empty gesture, it's meaningless, and it requires more force. So spin on the turntable again. Turn, and now turntable, just completely on, no changing relationship to the ground. Now, use the ground. Tap the earth's strength. Let it spin you. Land and feel the earth again. Again. Tap the earth. Let it spin you. Land. Feel the earth again. Hopefully you're not getting too dizzy. Once more. And this time, when we land, feel that as you land, you tap the earth again, and let that give you a kick. I don't care how good the kick is. My kicks have been crappy this morning. I did great the other day, but this morning I'm not doing a good job with them. So give yourself that freedom too. Don't even worry about how good the kick is. Try to get it to be that as you come around and land, then you let the rebound from that be what gets your legs starting moving. So, step back, ride the tiger, feel the ground, rebound, land, and kick. Again, step back to ride the tiger. Auguring into the ground pushes back, you land, and the rebound moves your foot. So we're making more complicated shapes than just going around on the surface. We're making a shape that goes down and then comes around and then drops again and makes the kick. So it's, there's the vertical component. It's actually much prettier than just the circling on the turntable. It's like flowers opening, things blooming. You get that kind of a thing happening. So once more on the spin. Step back to ride the tiger. Feel the ground. Let the ground's rebound spin you. Land on the ground. Let that make the kick happen. And I actually got a decent one that time because I did it right rather than trying to get my foot to kick. So that's happening every place. Let's do this squatting down up through the end of the form one more time. We'll start after four corners. And I want you to really feel that at every moment you're either letting the pebble drop through the pond towards the ground, or you're letting the pond fill you back up. And there'll be places where you're not doing that. And so that's okay. It's really important to notice those, because then you can spend your effort on figuring out, well, what am I doing there? Obviously, I'm not just cruising on the surface. I have to be rooting. I have to be grounding. And so I need to figure out what it is that I'm not doing that keeps me from rooting or grounding and just keeps me skating along the surface. Single whip. So just watch it. Squatting down. Feel the ground. Feel the ground again. Ground, rebound, ground, rebound. You get to squat. And drop first, and then let the rebound stand you up. And sink. Let the rebound shift you. And sink. Feel the ground. Let that stand you back up. And sink to step. This is demanding. So when you first start working on this, pick a piece of the form, something small, and work through it in gory detail, and just try to work it out. You can always ask us questions, and we'll give you pointers to the way we're doing this, which isn't necessarily state of the art. Right? So, time goes on, I find places where I can do a better job of using my root. I can do a better job of relating to ground. But we'll give you some pointers on it. But it's really important to just try to figure this out. And importantly, notice the places where you're just skating. And as you work on this, the skating will start to feel really yucky. You won't want to do it. It'll be like, well, I'm just wasting my time doing that. I could be doing anything. I'm not actually doing Tai Chi Chuan. I'm not actually integrating heaven and earth with the human beings, the whole thing. It'll feel a lot better when you do this. So that's one thing. The other thing I want us to look at is seek the straight in the heart of the curve, which is a saying from the classics. And so obviously there's straight things, right? Like the punches. The punches are straight. Just because an energy is moving in a straight direction, just because some part of your body, the fist, is moving in a straight direction, doesn't mean that the rest of you is also moving in a straight direction. The rest of you wants to be curving in order to make that happen. And so the straight motion of a fist or a hand or a foot, when I come down here and I'm stepping and my foot steps out straight, the straight motion there is a result of me making curves and spirals with the rest of the body. So I want to look at that a couple places, and then we'll try to put this whole thing together. So the first one is the bottom fist in bend bow to shoot the tiger, right? So, we kick and we step, and we come across here. The top fist is clearly getting thrown in a curve. Right? So just do that with me a couple times. You can start when you've got to the 70-30, and you turn your waist so that the top fist comes out. You turn your waist so the top fist comes out. Right? The bottom fist, while that's happening, is positioning itself. And then you spiral down, and the bottom fist goes out straight. Bottom fist doesn't have any curve to it, right? This is a curved punch. This is a straight punch. And when it does that, you're not just there with a piston attached to your shoulder, pumping in and out. You're spiraling down into the ground while the fist goes out. So do that with me a couple times. You can play around with it on your own timing. But really try to find that way that when you've punched with the top fist, the bottom fist is in position, and you now auger into the ground, and you let that send the fist out exactly straight. So we've just spun, kick, step, obvious curves, auger into the ground, let the bottom fist go straight. Just undo that last bit, stand up, and spiraling into the ground, letting the bottom fist go straight. One of the things about spiraling into the ground is your belly button needs to turn, right? So the waist is turning as you do this. Spiraling, fist goes out straight. Spiraling back up, fist comes back in straight. Spiraling, fist goes out straight. Spiraling back up, fist comes in straight. Spiraling out. So even in this place where the motion is very linear, straight punch, your body is making all of these curves. So you make big curves, curve, and then you make an internal curve that results in a straight punch out there. Bend, bow, shoot, tiger another couple times. Kick, curving, settle, fist goes out straight. We've just turned, symbolic kick, big curve, settle, fist goes out straight. Once more. Big curve, settle, fist goes out straight. So another one that's, I think, instructive for this is extending the hook in single whip. So, I've just done the push. I sit back and turn. I turn and gather. And now my whole body is turning, but the hook is going out exactly on a straight line, right? We always talk about this. You don't want the hook to curve, right? When I do this, I'm not making a curve with the arm. The hook is going out exactly straight. And while that's happening, everything else, your waist is turning, your foot is pivoting, the shoulder, the elbow, all of these things are unwinding. They're all making curves in order to send that hook straight. So seek the straight in the heart of the curved. Let's do this a couple times. Push into single whip, so you can see it. So go ahead, turn as you gather. People forget this turn. And now unwind and send the hook out exactly straight. Do that just that much again from push. Obviously turning, so you're spiraling towards the ground. You're letting the ground bring you back. You're spiraling back towards the ground. You're letting the ground fill you, and it sends the hook out straight. Ask yourself if the hook really went straight or if you bent it a little bit. Did it exactly go on a straight line? Once more. Go ahead, moving towards the ground. Let the ground move back, move towards the ground. And now, exact straight line with the hook. So even where the hook is making a straight line, there's a lot of curves happening in the body to get there. One more place to look at is press. Right? Press is totally linear. You've done roll back, you bring the hands together, and press is totally linear. So I don't want to spend time on the actual bouncing the ball off the wall or the coin off the drumhead part of press. I want you to look at how the two hands come together. So the Song of Press says, two energies come together, unify as one. Right, so you've got the two directions of the two hands squeezing together, and then ping, one energy goes out straight. And so when I think about the two hands squeezing together, it's easy to think that's linear, right? It's two things crossing. But watch what happens. As I sit back here and I bring my top hand in, it's making all of these curves itself. It goes from palm vertical and it turns so that the palm is facing down towards the lower front corner. So do that with me. Sit back, turn. Okay, now just pay attention to your left hand. As you come back towards the front, the left hand is doing one of those curvy things, and it ends up with the palm facing down towards the front corner. Right? So even though, maybe some piece of the hand is going on a straight line, there's all of this stuff happening in the arm to get you there. So do that again. Ward off right. Sit back. Turn. Let the arm swing. Left hand. Turn back towards the front and feel how the hand is making actually a fairly complicated shape to go all the way down facing the front corner. Once more. Sit back, turn, left hand, left hand, left hand, left hand, and then of course the two hands will meet and ping, it goes out. Now the right hand does a similar thing, right? The right hand starts palm vertical, and as you come back towards the front, the hand is rotating around the whole arm so that it ends up with the palm aimed towards the upper rear corner. Right, so the two hands start out both vertical, and by this miracle of spirals, they end up facing opposite corners. Left hand down towards the front bottom corner, right hand up towards the left rear corner. So let's do this. Pay attention to the right hand. Ward off right. Sit back. Turn. Watch the right hand as it spirals around the length of the arm and ends up palm facing up towards your upper rear corner. Again, ward off right. Right hand. Okay, and now one time putting both the hands together. And you're going to have to watch the rotation in both hands while this happens. Ward off right. Roll back. Arms swing. The two hands each make their spirals that come together into one that goes straight out. One more time. Great. So, changing relationship to ground, authentic movement, gestures that have meaning will always involve you working with the ground. You don't become grounded, done, check. You're always working with the ground. We make these spirals and curves with our body, even as some part of the body might be moving in a linear direction, even as the energy is moving in a linear direction. Right? If I want to push somebody, I want them to go away from me along a straight line. I'm not trying to spin them, usually. If I want to move something, I want to move it. But in order to move it, all of these curves and spirals are happening in the body. So this is happening everywhere. So let's do our little section, single whip, 4 corners, up through to the end. And pay as much attention to as much of this as you can, feeling the changing relationship to the ground, feeling all the curves and spirals, finding the straight that emerges from the heart of the curve. You'll have chances to do it in, press like we just did. You'll have chances to do it going into single whip like we just did. You'll have chances to do it in the spin, tapping the ground to spin, and the kick, tapping the ground to kick, bend bow, all that stuff. So you got plenty to do. So let's take it and we'll just run through the whole thing. We'll go slowish so you have time to remember all this stuff and enjoy it. Go ahead. So the thing about a change in relationship to ground is you have to have a relationship to ground. So you need to be real aware of how it is you're relating to the earth. So pleased to meet you, earth. And pay attention to that. Things go through the body, but watch for the places where you're either not doing anything on the ground or you get caught through someplace else like the squatting. And then you'll start actually using your root. You'll start actually grounding. See y'all next time.